Hello and welcome to the first ever Vanilla Azeroth podcast. I apologize today, I have a bit of a cold, and so my voice is a little shot. But I've always wanted to have a podcast about this topic because it really interests me. Vanilla WoW has been something that I was obsessed with when I was in high school, and I just wanted to share some of my experiences and get us all hyped for Classic. Well, we'll see how Classic ends up being. I'm sure it'll be great, but yeah, I certainly have my doubts along the lines of our friend Alex Sensual. But anyway, not to get political on you, but to remember the good times of Vanilla WoW. And so this is my first memory of Vanilla WoW. I'm going to try and go a little bit chronological here and share when I first experienced it. So getting into the whole thing, first of all, I had friends who played games like EverQuest. EverQuest was one of those games where you'd go over in the dial-up days of the internet, and it was so crazy. It was like, holy shit, you can order pizza through this game? Like, this is nuts. Like, there's something crazy going on here that I've never experienced before. And that was EverQuest. It was, you had all these crazy dungeons and places to explore, and yeah, I never really played it that much, so I didn't really get all the complaints everyone else had, but certainly that was what I first wanted to get, and, I was too young, and my parents said, no way are we going to give you our credit card number, so you're not going to get to play, so I was like, oh, okay, I'll wait around. So I went on to play other games, and, played Diablo 2 and other Blizzard stuff, and then at school one day, all the guys started talking, high school, all the guys started talking about World of Warcraft, and I had lost a group of friends. My group of friends decided to go do cocaine at another high school, and I was stuck at the school I was at, and so I had to find a new group of friends in high school, and that's never fun, but anyway. I went and found this new group of friends, and they all started using terms like noob and like screen watcher and stuff, and I'm like, I don't know what they're talking about, but whatever, I'll get into it. And so they were playing World of Warcraft. And I remember it was those days where, the internet was still pretty shitty back then, like we're talking like 2005, and so people could only show you it on their home computers where they had it installed. But in school, you would look at screenshots. And back in the day, Blizzard had all these screenshots lined up. They had screenshots on their website. And they had some decent screenshots, actually. A hell of a lot better than the ones nowadays. And I wish I knew where all of those went, because there were some really cool ones back then. And so I remember saving screenshots from World of Warcraft, just saving screenshot after screenshot. I think I had something like 300 of the screenshots. I saved every one on their website that was posted, I think, whether I liked it or not. I just wanted this compendium. And I remember I would sit there with my terrible laptop that wasn't even good enough to run WoW, and it would be on slideshow, and I would just watch the screenshots of all of the different scenes in Azeroth and try and piece together, what on earth could this game be like? And it was such an amazing experience. It was such a neat game in terms of the visuals, and it reminded me of all the things I loved, like Lord of the Rings, definitely, but it also had elements of Diablo. It had a lot of elements of Diablo, as I learned later, and it had like this weird sci-fi appeal to it too. Like it was not fantasy or sci-fi. It was kind of both together. And it was just so neat, and I loved I cannot emphasize enough how cool it was that you could play Horde, that you could play the bad guys. Back in 2005, that just didn't happen. You always played the good guys. Like, every once in a while, you'd get to kind of play, and I know I'm in a very cliched and anti-lore sense using the term bad guys loosely for the Horde, but you know what I mean. The point is, you always had to play like the knight in shining armor person. You had to play like the beautiful Calvin Klein model elf, which would of course come in Burning Crusade. But the neat thing was, it was like, oh man, I have a bunch of loser friends in high school, and we can be this loser ragtag bunch. And so even though I wanted initially to play Alliance because I wanted to play Paladin, there was something about the Horde when my friend said, "Oh no, we all play Horde," and I had to pick something from the Horde. It was like, as I learned more about the Horde and playing, I was like, "Oh, this is really cool. You get to be a part of this other group of people." And I never watched like He-Man or She-Ra or something, so I didn't have any other associations with Horde. And it was just this cool name. It was like these bad guys, and they're all these weird bunch, but you had these giant mountain cow people, and you had, the orcs who were just like fit. A lot of people just said they're just like fat green guys. There's some truth to that, but they're like muscular and built. And then you have like the zombies. Like, what the fuck, zombies in a game? And then the trolls, which were kind of culturally insensitive, but at the same time, like, even then, trolls were cool. Because it was just like, shit, you can have a mohawk. That's amazing. Like, you can ride a dinosaur. Like, this is crazy. I remember looking at going to electronic boutique and to game stores back then, and you'd end up seeing the boxes, and that was like this big thing, and Blizzard's made a big point about how they tried to make their boxes like significantly heavy, so that you had some sense of like value, like, oh man, this is worth something, this is neat. So it was, it was neat to look at the boxes, and on the back of the box, the original WoW box, there's like all of the tunes on their mounts, and it's like you can just see the raptor and I can't remember if there was a warlock with a flaming horse, but I remember the first time I saw an orc warlock on a flaming horse, it was like, holy shit, he gets to ride a horse? Like, that's a whole nother type of mount. There's not just four. So I was blown away. I thought this was the coolest game ever. And I think I got a chance or two to see someone play it at their house, like one of my friends play their characters. But to be honest, I didn't get a whole lot of experience aside from the screenshots, and that leads me to buying it. So, in my little group of friends, there was a divide. You don't care about my group of friends. But long story short, basically what happened was a group had played Alliance, and then the sort of beta or like secondary leader of the group was like, no, we're going to play Horde. And so he took like half the group. And so amongst the nerds at my school, there was this division, just like Warcraft, between the Alliance and Horde. And so the Horde side was recruiting. And so they decided to recruit me, even though I had a terrible dial-up internet connection. I remember playing with 2000 MS. 2000 to 3000 MS, I would just constantly get DC'd. I'd have to use the old EverQuest trick where you stared at the ground when you were playing. And so I would still play. I didn't care. If I could play at 2000, it was still better than nothing. So anyway, I remember getting the video game for the first time. I bought the box, and it said something about a 15-day free trial. And so it was like, okay, well, maybe I can play the free trial. I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I'm going to try. And then that was when they came out with the game cards, so that you didn't need credit cards anymore, because parents were terrified of the internet and credit cards in 2005. It was like, you do not mix these two things unless you're an idiot. And so I got a game card, and I remember installing the game, and it took friggin' forever because it was so big, but even the installation process was epic. It was like, oh man, all these different discs with different artwork on it. This is so cool. And so I remember installing it, and I couldn't get the game key to work on the card. And it became this epic battle of like, Mom, if you really love me, you'll give me your credit card. And finally, I called one of my friends who was playing, and he was so into playing that he didn't even want to take the phone, because I think it would have disconnected his dial-up. And so he finally begrudgingly took the phone and explained to me how to input the game card. And so I did that, and I logged in. And it was amazing, that title screen of the login where you have like the gate, the dark portal. It's like, holy shit, this is epic. This is scary. So I remember I knew that the trick that it was actually cool was that like my Baptist mom was kind of like, I don't know about this. Like seeing the dark portal, it was like, holy shit, this is epic. This is hardcore. So anyway, so I log in. And I look at all the different characters, and I was told, like, whatever you do, you just have to choose Horde, and you have to be a caster. And so, because we already have too many melees, and this will tell you how much people knew about Warcraft back in 2005. I was told that I had to be a caster because another one of my friends was a shaman, and he was going to tank for our guild. And so we didn't need a tank or a warrior because we had a shaman who was going to tank his way to the end of raiding. Yeah, with his two-hander. Anyway, so yeah, 2005, great year. Anyway, so I remember going through the different characters, and the Tauren immediately, like, it was like, oh, that's cool, but cool for someone else to play. Like, I don't, it's not my thing. And Troll was kind of neat, and Undead was really cool, and Orc, for whatever reason back then, like, I don't know why Orc didn't immediately appeal to me, because it's all I really play now. But at the time, I was like, I think I'm going to play Undead. So I remember creating an Undead Mage, Zelgoth, way back when. And so playing Zelgoth, I remember like logging in, and you wake up in the crypt, and it's like, holy shit, I'm a zombie, and I'm in a graveyard, like, this is insane, or in a crypt. Like, I remember like getting out and just being amazed at the controls alone. Like, I'd played enough video games to know WSAD, but I didn't know any other controls. So I remember just running around and being like overwhelmed, and not knowing how to do anything. Like, not knowing, you see the, like, walking out of the crypt, and then there's a guy with an exclamation mark, not having any clue even what the exclamation mark meant, like, being that much of a noob. And so I was like, oh, okay, this isn't gonna cut it. So I dared to call my friend, I think it was the shaman tank, who had two phone lines, and so I could call him while he was playing his shaman and doing AV. And so he, like, very begrudgingly, because I wasn't yet in on the inner circle, he, like, very begrudgingly explained to me, okay, spacebar is jump, like, and then, of course, amongst the first instructions was spacebar is jump, / silly is joke, and then you can also, like, fart and stuff like that. And, like, all of the emotes were amongst the first things, of course, I had to be taught. And then finally it was like, okay, yeah, click on the people with the exclamation marks, and then read the text, and then do the quest. And press 1 to attack, and start killing stuff, and you'll be fine. And that was it. And it was like, I literally knew nothing more than that. And so I think I figured out clicking on the buttons for the spells. But boy, did it take me a long time to learn the game. But I didn't care. I loved it. Like, I probably just sat in Death Knell, sniping zombies with Frostbolt or Fireball or whatever. I can't remember what your first spell was as a mage, because I never played a mage really again after that. But yeah, I just sat there, killing these zombies, and I thought it was so amazing. And I just remember being overwhelmed at how cool it was, especially Tirisfal. I honestly wonder if I had started in, like, the Valley of Trials, whether I would have liked Vanilla WoW as much as I did. But Tirisfal is, to this day, like, my favorite zone, like, one of them. Like, I just love it. It is so cool. Other things about starting up playing WoW. I'm trying to think here. Okay, so starting off, the emotes were a big deal. Running around and seeing other people playing in real life and being able to chat in real life, that was amazing. And playing the game and just seeing, like, the difference in skill level. Like, you're running around at a basic level, just trying to kill level 1 zombies. And then every once in a while someone would ride by, and it was like, holy shit, look at this giant guy on a mount. Like, this is huge. And so I remember leveling through Death Knell, and I remember, like, Agaman Mills being like, this is so amazing. Like, killing, like, Devlin Agaman was like, oh man. I don't even think I grouped up back then. It was like, you had to kill him on your own, and it was just this intense thing. And I think I remember, I can't say I was such a noob that I didn't learn about, like, buying new spells. But I think probably I was playing at a very suboptimal level. I remember using the broom as a weapon, or not the broom. Yeah, the broom you can get from the Tirisfal farmhands. They dropped, like, a broom or a rake or something like that, and using that as a weapon forever because I thought it was just funny. Anyway, I remember questing through there, and then I remember one of my friends, the big shaman, was like, "Okay, I'm gonna deign to visit you with my presence soon, so go to Brill." It was like, "Oh my goodness, I have to go to Brill. I have to wait for him to see him." And this guy was a total nerd in real life. Like no one would have. He was what one of my other friends called a wallpaper kid. Like he just blended into the background of school. Like he didn't ever say or do anything. But in game, he was like this champion. And so I remember him riding up this 60 orc shaman on his. I think he was still using a level 40 mount, to be honest, but on this big wolf, and I was like, holy shit, he's on a wolf, like, this is amazing. And I remember him giving me, I don't even think he gave me a single gold, I think he gave me like 50 silver, cheapskate, but I was like, oh man, I'm rich now, like, he gave me something like that, and gave me some bags, and then he dueled me. And I remember he was like, come on, fight me, fight me. And I was like, okay. And he just put on Lightning Shield, and he thought this was the coolest thing in the world. So he put on Lightning Shield and waited for me to hit him, and it took me a while. And then finally, when I hit him, I got Lightning Shielded to death. And then he just laughed at me and rode away. And I just remember instantly being like, oh man, that was so cool. Like, you can be a character that's so strong that when people hit you, they get damaged, like, and you don't even have to do anything, which when you're playing at 2000 MS, it's like, that's a good strategy, like, attacks where you don't have to actually hit a button, like, that's cool. So, I then, I was like, okay, well, this mage thing, it's kind of cool. I'll try it a little longer, but I knew inevitably at that point I was going to end up playing like an orc or playing an orc shaman. So, anyway, those were some of my first memories of Vanilla World of Warcraft, and just give you a sense of how it was back then. You know, like it was. There was this sense of exploration. There was so much that you'd never seen before, and there's after playing WoW on various. Fan forums or whatever we're calling private servers these days, playing them for years and years, there's still areas of Azeroth I haven't seen. And so I guess this first sense of this Vanilla Azeroth podcast is the game, first and foremost for me, is always about exploring Azeroth, about seeing all of the places that these people design, places that you may never have been before. And I'm always amazed in original WoW, and this is where I'm worried they're going to F it up with Classic. There's so many random, like, NPCs or people just put somewhere, and they might be relevant for one quest, and they probably are all relevant for one quest, but they had the feeling that they were just there for the sake of being there, like people in the real world are just there, and you don't know why they're there. And so it's amazing, like, you just perchance upon these people, and then sometimes they're incredible. I remember another story, years later I was playing, and trying to find I think it was the Elite Spalders, or the Elite Pauldrons or something. They're like a male shoulder slot for a warrior, and I remember, like, trying desperately to get them, but there was only one vendor who sold them, and I looked it up, and sure enough, it's this vendor on the edge of this scaffolding next to a friggin' waterfall in Stone Talon Mountains. It's this goblin guy. And then he, like, shows up, and then I think you can kill him, or, like, he disappears or something. He's basically gone. And so I remember going there. Oh, no, it's not that he's gone. It was that he only sells one at a time, and so they only refresh every however many hours. And so I remember fighting my way there, barely getting to him, and then going to buy the Elite Shoulders, and they were gone. And so it was like, okay, well, I have to, like, wait here, but the respawns are really powerful. So I remember, like, logging out at the edge of the scaffolding on this waterfall, and waiting, like, 3 hours until I thought maybe it's replenished now. And I still remember, like, nervous with anticipation, logging in, frantically clicking on the guy as all the spawns attack me, buying the Elite Shoulders before I get killed, and then jumping off the edge of this scaffolding off into the water, like next to the waterfall, and swimming away. It was like this epic adventure escape. And it was just for some random, I think they were like level 25 shoulders for my warrior. And it was like, what a neat game. Like, what other game does that? Every game now is just like random vendors in places, and they sell everything, and it's all for real money. But yeah, to have to actually travel and experience that and have an adventure just out of buying one piece of armor, it's like that's the old world of Azeroth. And the terrifying thing about them using the Legion or BFA client and going backwards is I'm worried there's so many details like that they put in the first place that I don't know if programmers nowadays will care about, because all the only problem I really have with a lot of the vanilla community now is that they're obsessed with they're like it's just raiding and PvP and endgame, and that's not true. I have played vanilla WoW for years and years and years. I have never hit 60 on a legitimate ×1 server before. I always restart characters, but I've played months and months and months of in-game time, and I've never even hit 60. And I've had a lot of fun. I'm not... You wouldn't keep playing if you didn't have fun. For me, leveling is fun. I don't care about doing Molten Core. I mean, it'd be nice to do one day, and I still pick classes in part based on what their cool armor sets look like. But I know I'm never actually going to have the time to attain that, or more likely the skill to attain that. But I don't care. Like, it's a lot of fun to be level 48 and gank people at Scarlet Monastery. Like, it's fun to sit there and get Chain Lightning crits. It's fun to be level 30 and mind control people off of Thousand Needles. Like, that's fun. So you don't need to be 60. You don't need to be raiding. You don't need to be in some elite level. The world itself of Old Azeroth is fun, and it has all sorts of fun things to explore and to see, and things you've never seen before, and things you've forgotten about since 2005. So that's really what I look forward to. That's why I keep playing Vanilla WoW, to see all of the places that were put in place, and all the experiences you could have on that basis. I mean, it's incredible, all that you can see. Anyway, those were my first experiences in Vanilla World of Warcraft, and just giving you a sense of the vastness of the world. I think I'll talk about other topics in the future, but I think I'll chronologically go through my vanilla experience up to Nostalrius and stuff like that. So thanks for listening, and enjoy.